The Owl House is one of the first hotly anticipated new shows of 2020, but is the hype justified? I'm coming in blind and checking out the previews we've gotten so far and see if the Owl House is worth a watch. The Owl House premieres on January 10th and follows Luz, who accidentally stumbles upon a portal to another world. Once there, she befriends a rebellious witch and her adorable little warrior friend, and in becoming the witch's apprentice, somehow pursues her own dream of becoming a witch herself. Disney Channel has come back to cartoons with a vengeance, making its presence known again through the acclaimed launch of summer 2019's Amphibia, currently waiting for its second season. My first thoughts at this press are, seriously? Another show where the protagonist ends up in another world and things happen? Is this going to become their thing now? This premise is literally Amphibia with a different world tacked onto the end of it, not to mention being similar to the Ultimate Resolve Starverse in its later seasons. I'm planning on a video where I discuss this more in detail, so leave a comment if you want to see that, and hit subscribe so you don't miss it. Anyway, I'm going to catch you up on 6 months of promotional pre-hype in this one video so you're ready for when the Owl House premieres on Friday. We're going to go in order of release, from the first teaser to the theme song, then the sneak peek for New York Comic Con, then to the trailer and one of the teasers that's come out ahead of the premiere itself. It's a lot to dive into, so we better get into it. The first teaser is basically a collection of scenes set to music, which means we basically have to be sold on the imagery. The first teaser makes the show seem a bit hard to read as we're introduced to this world for the first time. The first 20 seconds or so appear to be scenes likely from early episodes, as Luz gets acclimated to life in this world. A few emotive moments serve as the middle of the sandwich, but again, it's kind of hard to read these characters without dialogue. Action scenes and exploratory jaunts pad out the back of this minute-long teaser. That scene with Luz on the floor, likely for her first night, may as well be a remake of the same scene from the first episode of Amphibia, but I digress on those similarities. Does anyone else get a Gravity Falls vibe off the music in this teaser? I mean, arguably it makes sense given the show hails from a Gravity Falls storyboard artist and Alex Hirsch is a voice actor on this show. The theme song should offer us a little more explanation and maybe some exposition to boot. Well, at least it's coherent and offers us a vague notion of the show's premise. In addition to our main folks, it also introduces side characters, whom I guess are going to be important somehow. The opener ends with Luz letting out a little ball of light which bursts into the show's logo and title card. I'm assuming this spoils the end of season shock ending where, surprise, Luz can do magic, or whatever they're planning. That feels like a very Disney cartoon kind of plot, so if that does end up happening, I can now say that I've called it. The flying scene, about 18 seconds in, reminded me of the opening to Milo Murphy's Law for some reason, given how it's laid out. On to the sneak peek, originally revealed back in October at New York Comic Con. We actually get somewhere in this one compared to the previous previews, as the sneak peek comes from, likely, the first episode.
You can open your eyes now, human.
Flying staffs, crazy monsters, you're a witch! What is this place?
Luz offers us a completely rational reaction to finding yourself high over a foreign land, though it would arguably help if we got to see some of the scenes before this that show our landing here, but that'd spoil the whole episode.
Oh, I've had enough adventure for today. This is clearly not the PG fantasy world I always dreamed about.
It seems like Luz has some past experience with the world of fantasy, perhaps spending hours inside on a good weekend getting lost in an 18-book chronicle. They're always called chronicles, aren't they? Perhaps this opens the door for some potential genre savviness on her part if they play things that way. Ida, the witch, has a bit of snarkiness to her, but appears to mean well. Also, they picked the perfect voice for her.
Do you live here all alone?
Actually, I have a roommate.
Who dares intrude upon I, the
King of Demons!
This scene is perhaps the best way for us to be introduced to King, at least once you have the context of the intro down. The contrasting juxtapositions are actually played pretty perfectly here, as you kind of consider a character of his stature to be a bit more menacing, and one who has no time for frivolous things such as rubber duckies. The official trailer is more of an explainer told from the POV of Luz, which is obviously fitting enough, though the way they've done it here gives me a few vibes of Starverse: The Forces of Evil. The opening bit confirms that Luz is indeed living the dream by ending up here, which I guess is novel and twisty enough. There's not too much we haven't seen already for the first half-ish of the trailer, as we're handheld through some of the things we've seen in previous teasers. Near the end, we get to see some more of this second town setting, which will likely have plenty of screen time. The whole magical high school thing that they're trying to shoehorn in keeps gnawing at me. It's like a reverse The Other Kingdom. I know it's a plot device intended to make Luce more relatable and all, but it feels smushed onto the main premise, despite its likely necessity for both longevity and plot reasons. They might have to put in some work to help make that part of the show gel better. As we've gotten closer and closer to the actual premiere of the show, Disney Channel has put out some more specific, more promo-like teasers exploring different angles of the series. The teaser entitled Luce's Magical Journey is probably the most explanatory clip of the show we've gotten so far. The first 30 seconds or so really play up the spooky angle in a way that will probably let some viewers down to an extent. Towards the end, we get to see some of Luce's genre savvy, well, some more of it, come out, which is a good lean to go on for this show. It helps to make the concept really structurally solid. Looking over the real previews of the Owl House we've gotten so far, in advance of the show's premiere, I'm not convinced. I am open to being convinced, but as it stands right now, I am not convinced yet. This one just doesn't seem to be doing it for me in the same way Amphibia hooked me from the first episode. This show is really structurally sound. Disney Channel is generally really good on making sure their concepts are detailed and fleshed out, but I'm not sold on the other part, the execution. It feels about 80–85% of the way there, so it doesn't need too much more work to get there. However, I think I'm going to have to reserve much of my judgment until the show actually premieres, because there are still a few question marks in how this show is going to unfold in a creative sense that could either pull it over the line or sink its chances. We'll just have to wait and see. Hit subscribe so you don't miss my upcoming review of the first episode of The Owl House, plus more from the world of television every single week. You can check out more reviews of some of the biggest shows in kids TV right over here or down in the description. I'm Benzie Johnson Jr., I'm enthusiastic about television, and I'll see you next time.